Now wait, it gets better. Okay. Okay. Wait.
I'm
So,
almost ready to set us up, guys.
real quick, in February,
Okay.
Michigan is playing Ohio State in First Energy Stadium in an outdoor
Right.
hockey game.
Right.
You want to
Really?
go in the middle of February in Cleveland? I don't think so. I don't know how much. Seriously.
Oh,
I mean, and this has been
all
going on.
right. Well, guys, I hate to tell you this, but guess what? We're live. It's
Are we
time
really?
for What in the World with Paul Seaburn and his sidekick, John Dinalo. And for some reason, I didn't even click on start. And we're started. We're live.
Oh, that's how that happened. We have
That's
gremlins.
how that happened.
Aha.
So John was talking bocce ball in Michigan and Ohio State, and all of a sudden we're live.
Hey, you know what?
Welcome.
That's a good omen. Karen, that's a good
Michigan
omen.
and Ohio State are not going to play football this year. They're playing bocce ball. You heard it here first. What in the world?
I don't know if
Yeah,
we're a
yeah.
credible source. You're going to have to do some research on that.
Yeah, I don't quote me on that one.
Look that one up. Look that one up.
All right. Well, you can quote me on everything else. It's
Very good.
now. Yeah, this is What in the World. I am Paul Seaburn, your host. Everybody's favorite weird news podcast. Real news, sometimes strange, always funny. That's our motto. We join you once a week in the podcast land to talk about the strangest, weirdest, funnest. I guess that's a word.
Most fun. Most
yeah,
fun.
there you go. Okay, we'll use that one, John.
right.
News from around the world. These are real news stories. We like to play around with them, add a twist to them. The goal is to not have any bad news, political news, all that business news, religion, all the stuff, the controversial stuff. We stay away from that and stick with fun stuff. Our media mogul and co-host is and producer is Karen Hale, who always introduces us. She is the media mogul at nuclearradio.net, and that's the place to go to find out how to download the podcast, find out where we're at on. There's Karen again.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, guys. My internet is like jumping all over the place. So you just guys keep talking.
Okay,
We will. We
Looks
can
like
do
you were frozen there, so and I know
Yep.
we're not plugging frozen down in the theater districts, but and only I would get that. So anyway, let's see. So we've moved around on the screen here. So Karen Hale is our producer and media mogul at nuclearradio.net. Somewhere else on the screen is John Dinalo, my old friend, co-host and host of What in the World with John Dinalo. What in the World of Sport, I'm sorry, with John Dinalo. Hi, John.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Karen. It's another
Hey.
week in Cleveland here. Beautiful weather today.
That's right, beautiful weather. John is indoors today, but it's still beautiful weather up here in Northeast Ohio, which is where we're all at. I don't have any local stories today, and we always talk about local stories. I don't have it, but as always, I think we're going to top the strange news from last week with the stories we have this week. Let me give you a taste of what we're looking at here. I know John is already anxiously awaiting the Bigfoot story. This is a story about two different sightings in England of Bigfoot on a beach. So get ready, John, with photos.
Hopefully they weren't carrying suntan lotion with them.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out where Bigfoot rubs his sand.
Okay, sure, good. I'm looking forward to it.
Also, some strange tattoos from around the world. Karen always loved those strange tattoos. We've got a stolen Dennis the Menace statue in California. So we're going to talk a little bit about Dennis the Menace. Soup you can read while you're eating it. This story is from Japan. New use for pumpkins from Nebraska. Bad news for a Polish robot from Poland. World record cucumber. You know, we love world records. I've got a world record cucumber story from England. Some more odd news and trivia. Hopefully we'll get to a chupacabra story for Karen with photos from India. And strange sports, as always with John. John's got another really weird sport that's unpronounceable, but apparently he thinks he can do it. So
I would agree with you, Paul, on this. It'll be fun to do this story. It'll be fun.
And let's see. Oh, and then of course we'll play everybody's favorite weird news game, Bluff the co-host. So you always want to stay around for that. I want to do a couple of shout outs to let's see, to Mark down in Austin, also to Brian. Brian is always sending me little pokes, letting me know that he listens to the show. And I also have a special thanks to Gail, an old friend of mine. Gail and I were in second grade together. That's how long we've known each other. I think we were in the same class throughout elementary school. I got back in contact with her a few years ago through Facebook, and she's down in Tennessee now. Has a very interesting life. She rescues dogs. She's a big St. Bernard lover. Why am I mentioning this besides the fact that I'm thanking her for being for listening to the podcast? Because Gail contributed one of the stories this week. So I pointed out to you after we do it. So that I know she's anxiously awaiting. She said she can't wait to hear the story. So let's get right to it. This is not it, but you'll know it when you hear it. So John, one of our sports a few weeks ago was beach rugby. You remember that, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we did. It was played in Cleveland, as a matter of fact. So this is interesting. I thought I'd never see another beach rugby sport, and yet this week a world record was set in beach rugby. The Sandbaggers Rugby Club in England set a Guinness World Record when they went down to the beach and played beach rugby for 34 hours and 6 minutes straight. New world record. 22 people on the 22 people on the pitch, the beach pitch, playing around the clock. That's a day and a half. So they went all night. They had a support crew. They say it takes leather balls to play rugby. It also takes kidneys the size of rugby balls because they would drink it coffee the whole time so that they could keep on going. And 30, what did I say? 34 hours and 6 minutes. I can't do anything I can't even stay awake for 34 hours and 6
Yeah,
minutes.
no kidding.
No, not me either.
Yeah, I'm right with you, Paul. No,
And it was 22 people, John and Karen and everybody out there, not just like these long distance runners that run for 24 hours.
right.
This was 22 people competing, doing scrums, throwing the ball, kicking, gouging, all the other stuff you do in rugby. Yeah.
Right.
24 people running back and forth in the middle of the night sounds like what they do at an Amazon warehouse. But this was a game. and think about it. Would this happen in the NFL? Can you imagine football players playing for longer than 2 games even? 2 games worth of time on a field. I don't think it could happen.
I don't think players could do that. I mean, they could compete at a certain level, right? But when you go, hours on end, I mean, there was a playoff game once played between Kansas City and Miami, and that was I think the longest game on record. I'm not exactly sure how many overtimes it was, but I mean, it was really well beyond regulation, and those players were exhausted. I mean,
well, you know how these football players are. They're I've seen them where after they dumped the Gatorade on the coach, a couple of them needed oxygen. So, they're really not in the kind of shape that you think they're in. So these rugby players must have been in great shape.
Oh, they had to be in good shape. No kidding.
Yeah.
Sure.
I want to congratulate the Sandbaggers Rugby Club if they're listening, because it was a fundraiser for one of their players. So I thought that was a nice thing there. All right, so I've got a couple of photos here. I mentioned that we're on YouTube. Please visit us on YouTube. Follow us while you're there. I like to occasionally use some photos. I'm going to bring some up right now. This is especially for Karen. This is the tattoo story. So this woman is in Pennsylvania. Oh yeah, get ready for this. So she's a Pennsylvania resident, but she likes to travel the world, and she likes to get tattoos from wherever she goes in the world. So she gets a souvenir tattoo from every country she visits to help her remember the country. Language is a problem because she goes all over the world. So she went to Botswana recently and got a butt swan, which was not what she wanted, but they didn't understand her. So the one everybody wants to see is the one she got from the Virgin Islands, but I don't think we can see that in this photo. So anyway,
Well, okay.
I just got them. Where's my Bigfoot doesn't. Bigfoot's saving his breath here because I think he's low on fuel today.
Poor Bigfoot.
So she got a red snake from Peru. So she tries to link things to the country. A green gecko from Colombia and a monkey on her hand from Mexico City. Then she went to Canada, and there's nothing Canada. She got a white spot in honor of her visit to Canada. And then she just went to South Korea. And in South Korea, she got a dragon on her left leg. And I think I have a photo of the dragon here. There we go. Oh, no, that's not it. Oh, she's got pants on here. Oh, well. Sorry about that for all those who were hoping to see the dragon on her left leg. So she's in South Korea. And I'm thinking, if I were in South Korea and I was going to get a tattoo to help me remember South Korea, where would I get it? I mean, where on my body would I get it? I don't even know what I would get, but I figured I'd get it on my soul because.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
Yeah, Bigfoot's got a little bit of a groan there. Yeah, so get it on my soul. I'll tell you what, I looked it up. Getting a tattoo on the sole of your foot is probably the most painful place, other than a certain body organ. The most painful place to get a tattoo on the human body. So I'm not recommending it. I'm just letting you know that I thought about it.
Okay.
Okay, so almost as bad as this tattoo story is this guy. So his name is Brandon Delali, and he's in the United States. I don't know what city he's in, but he's a Tesla owner. Okay, and he's a lazy Tesla owner. This guy spent $400 to have a microchip implanted in his hand so that he doesn't have to carry his keys so that he can get in and out of his Tesla.
Whoa.
Yeah, I agree, Karen. That's
yeah.
The whole the podcast land is all saying whoa or something worse about that.
Well, what happens if he like sells the car? or he turns it in, the lease is up with
his lease is up. Yeah,
what
that's
happens
right.
then?
Okay.
Okay.
Leave his hand.
No.
Or-
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Good point, John. I don't know why he put it in his hand because obviously he's got a hole in his head. He could have put it in there.
Yeah, could have.
How lazy are we getting? He's worried about having the safety of never having to lose his keys. He's lost his mind. He hasn't lost his keys. He's lost his mind. That's what he needs to worry about. And what is that? This is a car with a brain. What do you think the Tesla thinks about this? Here's this. Look at get a load of this guy. He's waving his hand at me instead of his keys. What's wrong with it? Once he gets in, the car still has to do everything. The car's got to pick out the radio station anyway. I don't get it. And so I'm thinking. So now he no longer has keys. I hope he doesn't have kids. Because what are his kids going to play with now that he doesn't have a keychain in his pocket?
That's right.
Yeah, really. That's a consideration. And then does he have to wait a minute? If he no longer has possession of the car, then does he have to take the chip out of his hand? I mean, wouldn't he be illegally holding something that he shouldn't hold?
Yes, he would be.
It's no longer in his possession.
Maybe he can erase it. He can run a magnet over it like you do with a disk drive, and
oh yeah, could be.
Or take a hammer and smash it.
Oh, that hurts.
He knows for sure.
I don't know. But so I was thinking about that with the keychain. Have you seen anybody let their kids play with keys in a while?
That's something in the past. That's something that was done in the past, not any longer, or at least in my area. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the Fisher Price still sells a plastic ring with plastic keys on it, so they're still catering to that crowd. I don't know, I would think they should sell plastic cell phones because
they do.
They do really.
They do. But see, parents are giving their kids their cell phones when their kids are like 6 months old.
Wow.
so the kid can sit there and watch, like, oh wow, I'm being entertained. Sorry.
Well, good point, Karen, because when we were kids, now I'm not going to say what years we were kids in, but in addition to playing with keys, Fisher Price sold all of our parents those wooden phones. You remember the Fisher Price wooden phone with the dial and
Oh yeah, sure.
yeah.
Yep.
That was I didn't realize this. That was their biggest selling toy in the history of Fisher Price. They sold more of those than any. In fact, they claimed it helped save the company when during a recession. I don't know which recession it was.
Really?
Yeah, that was the product. And the you would think it's for teaching little kids to talk on the phone, but actually it was for just dragging it around. The eyes used to bob up and down and it played music. So they didn't even care if kids used it as a phone. They just wanted it to drag around. And then, of course, you pulled the phone out and you broke the string and your parents had to go and buy a new one. 1961, the year the phone came out. I had to look it up there. And it was called the talkback phone, and then they called it the chatter telephone. Had a smiling face. I moved up and down, had a rotary dial. I don't know, nobody knows what a rotary dial is anymore. A bell rang, and that's what they wanted kids to do, learn how to dial a phone. Best-selling product. In fact, it's still available both in the new model, which is plastic, and the vintage wooden model, which I'm sure costs 3 times as much as the plastic one. So anyway,
Of course.
Fisher Price toys. Okay, Monterey, California. This amazed me, this story. Police are asking for the public's help in finding a statue. I'm going to put a photo of this statue up here so you can see what it is. That's not it right there. That's our lovely tattoo lady. There we go. So John and Karen, do you
so
recognize that little kid?
Yeah, Dennis the Menace.
Dennis the Menace. There's a park in Monterey, California called Dennis the Menace Park, believe it or not. And in Dennis the Menace Park is a statue of Dennis the Menace, the cartoon Dennis the Menace, not the TV Dennis the Menace. But we'll get to him in a minute. So anyways, someone cut Dennis's foot with some kind of metal cutting device and stole the statue from the park. And this was like a week and a half ago, and we still haven't recovered the poor Dennis. I hope they didn't melt him down. But if you think about it, he's called the Menace for a reason. So the thief should be afraid of someone whose nickname is the Menace. If it was a politician, I'd be afraid of a politician named the Menace. If they're stealing their statues, they should be afraid in November. Anyway, that's my commentary on politicians and Dennis the Menace.
Gotcha.
This is an odd trivia question, John. I'll see if you know it. It's pretty obscure. You remember the name of the cartoonist who drew the original Dennis the Menace cartoon? Strip, which is still on, but he's been passed on.
I can't recall. I mean, I can't hazard a guess on that one, Paul.
Okay, it was Hank Ketchum. Ketchum was his name. Hank Ketchum started in 1951. It was the first time he drew the Dennis the Menace cartoon. He originally worked for Walter Lantz. If you're a cartoon buff, Walter Lantz was the animator for a very, very famous cartoon. Karen and John, any thoughts? Woody.
Was that Tom and Jerry?
No, Woody Woodpecker.
Woody Woodpecker.
Oh,
Woody Woodpecker.
Okay.
And then eventually he went to work for Walt Disney. He worked on Pinocchio, Fantasia, Bambi, and Donald Duck. So he's a good cartoonist. But his claim to fame is Dennis the Menace. So he started in 1951. After, this is a story, his 4-year-old son came in to his wife came into the studio and said that his 4-year-old son was driving her crazy. His name, by the way, is Dennis. And she said, she runs in, she says, your son is a menace. And he said it all came to him in a flash. So the father's name and the Dennis is obviously the son. The father's name is Henry, which is his name. The mother's name is Alice, which is her name. Remember the neighbor?
Mr.
Hello?
Wilson.
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Wilson, that's right. Mr.
Very
Wilson.
good, Karen, very good.
Yeah, Mr. Wilson actually had a first name, George, and his wife was Martha, George and Martha, like the first president. How about, now here's another obscure one. Dennis had a cute little girlfriend. But not a girlfriend, really. He hated her, but she was the girl character. She had red hair and freckles. Her name was Margaret. So there was a sitcom based on Dennis the Menace that was on when we were kids. I'll give you another crack at it, John. You remember the little child actor who played Dennis the Menace?
Jay North.
Jay North, very good, very good. Jay
And
North,
it's on TV in the morning.
it's on your TV in the morning.
I think it's on Me TV.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
Me TV runs a lot of those old sitcoms.
Oh,
Wow.
great. Well, you can watch Jay North. Jay North is still around. He's 71 years old. After he retired from Dennis the Menace, he became a porn star. I'm just kidding, Jay, if you're listening.
Yeah, didn't know he moved on to that famous area, but I didn't know that.
He actually had trouble getting a job after that, which was a problem with a lot of child stars. So he joined forces with another child star, Paul Peterson. And again, for you old timers out there, I know you'll recognize that name. Paul Peterson played the son on the Donna Reed show.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of them became consultants for child actors to help them deal with when they were no longer children. Nice thing to do. And also,
Yeah, right.
he couldn't find a job. So,
Sure.
so Hank Ketchum donated the money to build Dennis the Menace in Monterey, California. And then he donated the statue. So a place for kids to play, place for them to remember Dennis the Menace and buy a newspaper and read the comic. The statue was stolen once back in 2006, and they had to replace it with a brand new statue. So this one that we're looking at right now is still missing. So if you know anybody out there, call the Monterey Police Department. I don't have the phone number. Let them know that you know where Dennis the Menace is. Now, sticking with our cartoon theme here, the North Las Vegas Animal Protection Services was called out to rescue a roadrunner. Now, and I want to show a picture of a roadrunner here because I've never really, I know what the cartoon looks like, but here's an actual roadrunner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Huh.
the guy's holding it. They have a huge head in proportion to their body, but obviously the part that everybody will be impressed with is their legs, which allows them to be known as the roadrunner. So this poor roadrunner that this guy is holding here was stuck in some trash in a bush on the side of a road in North Las Vegas. And luckily, they got there in time and they were able to release it. They ran away. And just seconds later, they couldn't help this poor thing. But a coyote riding a rocket crashed into the bush. They were unable to rescue the coyote. But
Was the rocket made by the Acme Company?
Acme Company, very good, John. That's
Yeah,
right.
I
They
can
said
visualize it very well. Sure.
as it flew by, they could clearly read ACME on the side of it. That cartoon debuted in 1949, so that was the golden age of cartoons, 49, 50, 51.
Wow.
It was originally called Fast and Furry Ons. Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner sounds much better. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it does. No, hands down.
Yeah, invented by Chuck Jones, who, if you're a cartoon aficionado, very, very famous cartoonist and animator from that period. You mentioned Acme. They had a rule that Wile E. Coyote could only use things that he got from Acme in order to chase the Roadrunner. And the Roadrunner could only be on the road. The Roadrunner never left the road. And the only sound that was allowed was the only voices were the beep beep of the Roadrunner. So they stuck to that the whole time, basically. So I thought that was interesting.
Hey, just for the record, does
Yeah.
the Roadrunner make that beep beep sound?
Boy, that's a good question, John. I don't know. I think they invented it for the
For the cartoon?
cartoon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, just curious. Yeah.
I think it's more of a I don't know what it is. It's a honk honk.
Kind of
It's
a
on the road. Honk honk would be better than beep.
right. It's a cartoon prop, obviously, or so it appears. So it appears to be. Right.
That's right. Okay, so I got a new department now. Things that sound dirty but aren't. This is for you, Karen. The things that sound dirty but they aren't. So you don't have to put your hand
Okay.
at the center button for this one. So
Okay.
So our first story in things that sound dirty but aren't is a story of the man in England who has the world's longest cucumber. Sounds dirty, but it's not. It's a real cucumber. He broke the Guinness World Record by growing a massive cucumber measuring, get ready for this, 3 feet, 8.6 inches. So that's over 3.5 feet long, over a yard long cucumber.
Wow.
That's astounding.
Yeah, you can't. I don't have a picture of it. But I'll take the Roadrunner down here. I don't have a picture. They couldn't sell it either because there's no plastic bags long enough to put it in at the grocery store. And the grocery stores wanted it. You know, well, what an attraction a 3.5 foot long cucumber would be. I mean, number one, the ladies would be lined up there saying, "I've never seen one that long." Again, Karen, it sounds dirty, but it's not.
Oh yeah.
It's how your mind operates. Just
That's
think
right.
it's how your mind operates.
That's right. That's right. The guys were all.
You got to remember who I'm married to. That's why I think that way.
The guys were all saying they're doing their Crocodile Dundee impression. Well, you know, that's not a cuke. I'll show you a cuke. Anyways, so the poor guy who grew it, he almost missed out on the record. This is really something. He had a bleeding on his brain while he was growing. It was close to being done, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. So as he's being taken out, he told his wife to please watch the cucumber for me because I think this is the one. And sure enough, I mean, talk about somebody in a pickle. Sure enough,
so to speak.
So to speak, she watched it for him, and when he came back, he found that she had taken good care of it. It had grown to record proportion. So he was afraid that the thing that happens in this case is that she would leave it on the vine too long, and it would get rotten and blow up. That's what happens to him. And then the poor woman, she would have ended up in the hospital, and they would have said, you know, what are you here for? And she would have said, well, I made my husband's 3 foot long cucumber explode. And again, Karen, sounds dirty, but it's not. So here's something else that sounds dirty, but it's not, and that's long, soft noodles. This story comes from Japan, a hot new dining sensation. You know how much I love Japanese food. So this one, wait till you see this, John and Karen, and everybody watching on YouTube. There we go. So these are big, wide egg noodles in a cup of Japanese broth. And for those of you who can't see it, there are 3 lines of Japanese characters on each of these noodles. Now, these are prayers that were given to the noodle maker by a Buddhist monk who, made the prayers and gave it to them so that people can say these prayers either before they eat or maybe they pray while they're eating. Which, you know, if you feel the need to pray while you're swallowing noodles, you probably didn't boil them long enough. These look like they're nice soft noodles with prayers on them. But who wants to read their food? John, do you? I mean, even alphabet soup. I get bored with alphabet soup.
No, I'd rather just look at the food and then enjoy it. I don't want to be reading it. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. What on earth could they put on it that would be of interest? Apparently, the prayers are interesting to some people. So I'm thinking, if this happened in Cleveland, what it would be the sports page, and you know, I'm at my local diner eating my soup and reading about the Guardians. And just when I get to the end, and they say, And the score of the Guardians game yesterday was continued on next noodle. And I look and I already ate the next noodle. And I'll never know.
I kind of wrecked that whole plan. That wrecked
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, wow. It's a good one, Paul.
Obviously, it's a ploy to sell more noodle. And
Right.
yeah, if you're gonna put the sports page on, I would put it on lasagna noodles, which are at least bigger than those soup noodles. So, anyways, I thought that was an interesting thing. Okay, one more
That's an interesting
food
story.
record. Yeah, here's another one for you, John and Karen and everybody out there. Wayne Hansen from Nebraska set a new Guinness World Record for riding 38 miles down the Mississippi River. The Missouri River, which is the Big Muddy. No, the Big Muddy is the Mississippi. Anyways, the Missouri River in this. There you go. He is in a giant pumpkin, a giant hollowed out pumpkin that he grew himself, just like the cucumber guy. So there he is. You can see him. He's allowed to have a fake paddle, but everything else is made from his pumpkin. And they just missed it on the photo, but there was a little kid with a blanket running along the shore, yelling at him that he was a murderer for killing the great pumpkin.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's something you don't see every day.
You know, every day. That's right. Done when he was done.
How is it staying afloat?
Well, it's I don't know, Karen. I guess pumpkins are waterproof, so as long as it doesn't splash over the top. You know, the previous record was I think 24 miles. So eventually it falls apart, and then you make it into a dessert called the Titanic.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that's the guy with the pie, the guy with the pumpkin.
Wow.
Take that one down. Yeah, how about that? Another world record here. Okay, so this comes from England. Researchers at the University of Edinburgh have found a link between learning how to play a musical instrument when you're a kid and improved thinking skills when you're an older person. So the study says if you learn how to play a musical instrument when you're a kid, you should have a pretty good brain still when you're older. Which is the reason why Keith Richards never forgets where he puts his stash. Learned how to play his guitar early when he was a kid. Now we never forget. He's where his drugs are. But I want to ask you, John and Karen. John, I don't remember you ever playing a musical instrument. Did you learn any?
No, I never did. I had an interest, but it was not strong enough. And as I was in grade school, they always encouraged us to play an instrument. My brother Frank was a very good guitar player.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I never.
I was a singer. We used to sing in the fraternity together. Karen, how about you?
I played the clarinet for one day, and the band leader told me to pretend for the rest of my life.
Oh my God, that's harsh. That's harsh when you're.
It was harsh.
Wow.
So you can blame this teacher for your cognitive abilities today. They took away your ability to remember things because they stole your clarinet. I would sue them. I think that's grounds for a lawsuit.
What did you say your name was?
What?
Oh.
So, anyways, so Mick Jagger unfortunately never played a musical instrument, so he can't remember anything. Can't get no satisfaction either.
Right.
But before you write in, everybody out there in podcast land, he does play a musical instrument. He plays the tambourine. I don't know if that counts in the study, and I believe he plays the harmonica, which he's really a good harmonica player.
I had a recollection, Paul, that I thought he played a guitar at one time. Maybe I'm way off on that.
Very good, very, very good, John. Lead into a little bit of trivia here. Who was I talking about? By the way, I played the accordion. I played the accordion when I was a kid, and the piano, and the harmonica a little bit. So anyway, so you can't blame that on not playing a musical instrument. His father's name, Mick Jagger's father's name is Basil Fanshawe Jagger. Good thing he didn't name Mick after himself. Basil Jagger II. He was a former gymnast and a physical education teacher who helped popularize basketball in Great Britain. I had no idea that, and he wanted little Mickey to follow in his footsteps as a physical education teacher. So we could have lost Nick to kids playing basketball and kickball in England, but fortunately, he wasn't interested in that. So
Had to become a singer instead of
famous singer,
arguably
instead,
the most
right.
famous rock band in history.
Undoubtedly, that's right. That's right. Okay. I want to do my Polish story here. So this is good news for people who are worried about robots taking over. There's a store chain in Poland that was Zabka Polska is the name of it, convenience stores, and they were testing a robot that made hot dogs. Didn't even make them. All it had to do was assemble a hot dog, which for those of you who don't know means picking up the hot dog and putting it in a bun. There's a video on it. Look it up. It just absolutely failed miserably at picking up a hot dog and putting it in a bun. It was so bad. They took its job away and they gave it a voice. And so now what it does, it stands there and tells people to eat healthy food instead of hot dogs. But I know what the problem was. The problem was that they were using German Frankfurters, and it's a Polish robot. Give it some kielbasi, and boy, those things would have gone right into the dog. Put some sauerkraut on it, some mustard, and bam, out the door.
Good one.
This reminded me, the lovely Donna and I this week were out shopping for pierogies. And in the Cleveland area, for those of you who are not familiar with it, many of the churches on Fridays sell pierogies made by the little old ladies who belong to the church. So this scares me because nobody can make pierogies like the little old ladies, certainly not a robot. And even if they could handle the mechanics of it, you couldn't get enough vodka into the robot to just add the little twist that those ladies do as they sit there slowly getting schnockered, making pierogies. They're entertaining. They're the most entertaining ladies. A couple of churches we go to. So anyways, okay, let's get right to Bigfoot, because I know John is anxiously
awaiting
for
news.
photos of Bigfoot. So this story comes from England, and I'll try to get to the photos as fast as I can, but I need to set the stage, John, and everybody out there. So we talk about Bigfoot on this show quite a bit, and if I say Bigfoot, you're thinking we're gonna have a story from Washington, which is where Bigfoot lives, most Bigfoot. And if we talk about their size, they're usually 7 to 11 feet tall. And so anyways, this is completely off the wall in England. Two different stories. So this guy wouldn't give his name, but in the interview, he said he was on a beach in England. Let's see. I was with a group of friends paddleboarding and had gone for a wee in the dunes. Now the dunes are the sandy piles on the beach. So he came off of the water and got out to the beach and went behind the dune for a wee. And while he's there, he sees a 15-foot tall Bigfoot standing on the beach. Apparently there weren't any other people there, just him and his paddleboarding friend to verify this. He didn't yell, hey, look at this, because he was taking a wee. So obviously, so here's how he described it. He says it was double my height and built like Arnie. Now that can only be who, John? Arnie would be
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's right.
Sure.
So, but 15 feet tall, to me, sounded more like the Incredible Hulk, which would be Lou Ferrigno. So if you're comparing Bigfoot to a bodybuilder, it'd be either one of those two. So 15 feet tall, and here's what happened next. So he says it looked right at him, and I just stood frozen in the spot, and then it bounded off across the dunes into the pine forest. So apparently there was a little wooded area behind the dunes. So so he says none of his friends saw it, so he didn't have his phone with him. But fortunately, there was another Bigfoot sighting on a beach in England. This was by a dog walker. Her name is Clemmy Long. If you're listening, Clemmy, there's your plug. So so she's got her little dog, and I got a picture of the dog in a second. She said, my dog has never been so insistent about something. Took me straight to these footprints. When I saw them, I couldn't believe it. They must be 5 times the size of a human footprint. So here we go. John and Karen and everybody out there. There's our pumpkin guy. Here's the Bigfoot footprint. So I don't know what kind of dog that is, but these 2 footprints are each at least the size of that dog.
Wow.
And you can see clearly defined toes and a heel.
I would agree. I would agree on that. Yeah, sure.
In the sand. Now there's only 2. So thank God she had her phone and she left the dog in the photo. So we had some perspective on how big the feet were, which I really liked. Unfortunately, that's the extent of the photo. So I'm sorry if you were anticipating a picture of Bigfoot in some beach,
Hey, no,
But how, wait a second, there's footprints there, but where, if he was walking, there'd be more footprints.
Wouldn't you? Very good.
very good point, Karen. Very good point.
You've watched this podcast before. That's exactly right. That was the first thing I said. There's just 2 footprints. Now, did they get washed away? These are very clearly defined footprints. You would think that there would be more clearly defined footprints, and unfortunately, there were not.
Well,
however, apparently there's a rash of Bigfoot sightings in England these days.
Well, wait a minute.
We'll stick with this one for a minute, John.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I'm going to say, being a dissenter, as I always am, I mean, couldn't somebody actually just make those impressions?
Oh, who would do something like that, John?
Someone is trying to throw us off. And
That's right.
And someone's trying to pretend that there really is a Bigfoot. And here's the proof, but it's not really the truth.
There you go. That's entirely possible. I can't say it. The needle on my is it real meter is tending towards no. They're probably fakes, but I can't prove it. So because I can't prove it, I can't say for certain whether they're real or not.
Right.
Karen is exactly right. There should be more footprints. That's generally the case with these footprints. There's only 1 or 2, never an entire path where Bigfoot hops and skips and jumps and dances and does all kinds of stuff that would let us know that it was a real thing.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. So
ponder, something to think about.
So this is on the northeast side of England, on the North Sea, which is pretty cold. So it's good Bigfoot territory. There was another one in Northumberland. This guy said that the Bigfoot that he saw was 11 feet tall, 5 foot wide, with 2 bright green eyes, which is another thing that's very unusual about Bigfoot is that normally they're bright red eyes or eyes that glow in the dark. So this particular British Bigfoot has green eyes. So I'm just wondering, with Bigfoot being at the beach and having green eyes, if the British Bigfoot has somehow evolved. Maybe it rode on a log over from the United States or what would have been North America before that, and rode to England, and then because of inbreeding, they developed this massive size and Arnold Schwarzenegger shaped bodies and glowing green eyes. We certainly have mutated Bigfoot in the United States, and our buddy Don down in Florida always talks about the swamp ape in the Everglades, which is a Bigfoot that doesn't like being in the woods. It likes being in the soupy, swampy areas of Florida. So I don't know. It's something to think about. There have been, according to Les Brickley, who I've corresponded with in England. He's a Bigfoot researcher. Since 2019, there have been 16 verifiable, decent Bigfoot sightings in England. So, yeah, it's happening. They're either hallucinating or Bigfoot is breeding. I don't know.
Now, by law of averages, I'm going to bring this up now. By law of
averages.
Law of averages. If you have 15 sightings, okay, in 2022, there is no one that has a cell phone to take a photo or there was no one who has a cell phone that can't take a video. I mean, that's astounding to me. I mean, what are the odds of that occurring? See, this just makes me be more and more of a dissenter, Paul and Karen.
It's funny that you mentioned that, John. Yep, and I think whenever there's a photo, I always have it on the show. But I did a ghost story from England this past week on mysteriousuniverse.org, which is where you can go to read some of these other stories. I'm a writer there. And this was a ghost story. And the lady took a photo, right? Really nice photo of a woman ghost in period clothing, old clothing. And she took it with a camera, which had me skeptical from the get-go, because nobody carries a camera around anymore. Everybody carries a cell phone. So
right.
it was too detailed for me again. But what do I know? So yeah, you're right, John.
Well, and then also we know the counter to that. Look at the theory that the Bigfoot has some kind of power that the like you couldn't take a photo or you couldn't take a video because
you better believe
mysterious,
it.
He has some kind of mysterious ability to
thwart
a person.
Right. Oh yeah, John. I'm glad you remember that, because one of these days you're going to run into a Bigfoot. And
I'll tell you what, Paul and Karen, you'd be the first people I would contact and say, guess what happened to me? I never thought it would happen.
and the next thing John's going to say is, and wouldn't you know it, I didn't have my phone.
Right, and that would be my own worst enemy in that case. And I would say, of course.
There you go. All right. So speaking of photos, I do have a very interesting photo here that I know Karen is interested in, because this is her favorite monster, the chupacabra. Which, for those who don't know, and don't speak Spanish, chupacabra means goat sucker. And these are creatures that are known to, or allegedly known to, kill livestock and suck the blood out of them. So anything from chickens all the way up to cows, and sometimes even humans, where there's stories of those. So this story comes from India. And you would not think that India would be a hotbed of chupacabras. It would be Puerto Rico and Texas are the two places. So this particular chupacabra happened in a store. That's where they saw it, in the state of Bihar. And the people who were in the store, they heard this rustling, and they see this animal climbing walls and shelves. And I got a picture of it climbing up the wall. So there you go. So this is the creature. If you Google India chupacabra, you will see a video of this long, pointy-nosed, skinny animal with a tail climbing up the wall, climbing up shelves. Very strange, like nothing that I have seen. And the witnesses said the same thing. It's like nothing they've ever seen before. So of course, they got scared and ran out the place. I might have. So this particular chupacabra ran out the door after them, but they notified the local wildlife officials, and they came out and followed it and managed to capture it. So I've got a picture of the chupacabra in a cage over here. So this is the animal that they claimed was the chupacabra. Now, before I tell you what they think it is, I want to mention the fact that there have been a number of chupacabra sightings in India recently, and of the serious kind, where farmers have reported up to 150 sheep being killed in one night over a localized area. So with no evidence of a dog or a wolf or anything like that. So of course, just like Karen would yell, the first thing they'd say,
chupacabra.
There you go. What else could it be? So this particular creature, the experts came out and they took a look at it, and they said, we don't think it's a chupacabra. We think it's a civet cat. Now, civet cats are a form of cat in Asia and Africa, and civet is, by the way, is spelled C-I-V-E-T. And that may ring a bell to some people if you're a coffee lover. Does that ring a bell to either one of you?
No, it does not.
Does not. Okay. So a civet is a small, fairly lean cat, nocturnal, typically live in the forest in Asia and Africa. And, a chupacabra drinks blood and eats meat. These don't. They're more herbivores. They like vegetables. But their favorite food is coffee beans. And what they do is but they can't digest them. They're like coffee bean intolerant, but they still like them. So what they do is they eat them. And then when they don't get digested, they come out the other end. And then people who live there collect the beans and grind them up.
It's pretty grotesque.
No.
This is a grotesque
Let me tell you, that this is the most expensive coffee in the world.
I'll be certain never to drink anything from those beans. I'll tell you right now.
Guaranteed not to harm you. 1 pound of civet coffee beans sells for up to $600 in some parts of the world.
Well,
Not for me.
money, you can spend it on what you want, obviously.
There you go. 1 cup sells for $100 in some areas. That's how valuable this coffee is. So, I mean, it's not a chupacabra. If it was a chupacabra, they'd be famous. It's only a civet, so now they're just going to be rich. As long as they can find
it goes.
Find the right coffee bean.
Really?
So there you go. So I thought that was a really interesting. I heard from a friend of mine in India who is a Indian chupacabra expert. He wanted to make sure I mentioned that story. So, anyways. There's our chupacabra story for the week. I'll take that picture down so I don't have to look at it anymore. Now, I think I'm going to let Bigfoot say something here. While I take a drink of water. And let's get to the next segment of our show, which is What in the World of Sports with John Donalo. Every week I ask John to find us a strange sport that we've never heard of. Sometimes something that we could play, I always ask him that. Maybe something that we could sponsor in Cleveland and be the moguls of that sport. But he always manages to find a strange sport, and this week is the case. So this particular one is a difficult to pronounce. I'm anxious to hear how John says this sport. Go ahead, John, and I'll get your photos lined up here.
That sounds good. And before I start, this sport is something that I don't think any of us could participate well in. I have to just offer that as an intro, but no, thanks, Paul. So our sport this week is Seapak Takraw.
I know that guy.
Yeah.
I think that gives me money that I think of it, but no, but it's actually the name of a sport that is really the equivalent of kick volleyball. And it's a combination of volleyball and soccer. Ready for this? Where players only use their feet, knees, shoulders, chest, and head to hit a ball over a net.
So not their hands.
Not their hands. Now, get this. Interestingly enough, it resembles native sports in Asian and Southeast Asian countries, including Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Myanmar, Thailand, China, Vietnam, Korea, and Japan.
Wow.
Now, in Myanmar, Seapak Takraw is known as Chinlone and dates back 1,500 years as a performance activity to entertain Burmese royalty based on Burmese martial arts and dance. So there's some historical.
It looks like a martial art. I gotta say, I have a picture up here for those of you who are watching on YouTube. The net is lower than a volleyball net, but these guys, their legs are way up in the air, and they're kicking the ball back and forth over the net, just as John described it. It's amazing.
It is amazing. Now, from an origin standpoint, it may have been introduced to Southeast Asia by the Chinese, who were inspired by the traditional game Kuju, an ancient military exercise where soldiers play to keep a leather ball filled with feathers airborne by kicking it back and forth between two or more people. That's a very good depiction.
An old drawing of people.
Now,
sports.
So
yeah, I think the male sport, yeah, but I know it's played by women now.
Right, exactly. But as the game evolved, Kuju was also considered by the International Football Association, or FIFA, as the origin of football as a sport worldwide.
Yeah, and by football we mean soccer, right?
Soccer, right? So this is even
American
soccer, supposedly. Well, the origin supposedly does. Now, the word CPAC in Malaysian is the word for kick, while the word takra is of Thai origin and is translated as muzzle or woven rattan ball. So CPAC takra literally means to kick a rattan ball. So there's a, yeah.
I have a photo of one coming up. But yeah, the wooden ball, but it's hollow inside. So
yeah, right. That's a good way to describe it. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, so this sport was first exhibited in Penang, Malaysia in 1945, and the modern version became standardized in 1960. And then it was introduced in the 1965 Southeast Asian Games in Kuala Lumpur as a medal event.
Wow.
Sepak takraw is considered Malaysia's national sport. There are more than 30 countries with national Sepak takraw organizations, and these countries include the US, Canada, and Mexico.
You would think we would have heard of this sport.
Yeah, as I did the research, it's amazing that it's not that popular, or at least people are aware of it. Let's put it that way. Now, in the US, the earliest accounts of organized takraw come from Northrop University in California. In the early 1980s, Southeast Asians held takraw events in California, Michigan, Minnesota, and California. Now, the easiest part of Seapak takraw is explaining how it's played. Each team consists of 3 players: the server, the feeder or setter, and the attacker or striker. The game truly is volleyball with your feet because, again, as we said before, there are no hands allowed, except on the service throw. And scoring is the same. The first team to reach 21 wins the set, and the first to win 2 out of 3 wins the match.
Now, I want to point out, I showed some pictures of the sport. I'm not even going to attempt to say it, kick volleyball. It looks really dangerous. I mean,
yeah, it does.
These guys are upside down.
I mean, you have to be in such good shape to be able to compete in this. I mean, not to be funny. I mean, really, look at that. Look at those guys.
How do they must fall on their head constantly because
I'm surprised they don't wear helmets.
You're right. That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. So
it could be that it's padded. It's a padded court, but it sure looks.
No, you have to be really strong to be able to compete. And obviously you have to be athletic enough to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's like being a high jumper with a ball thrown in the middle of the
trying
to jump. That's kind of what it looks like.
That's a good analogy.
Wow.
Karen, this is for you. Seapak takraw is governed internationally by the International Seapak Takraw Federation, and the major international tournaments are the World Cup, Malaysia's Johari Cup, and Thailand's King Cup. I think, in closing here, I think Seapak takraw sounds like a lot of fun, but let's hope that this kicking thing doesn't spread to other sports. I don't think I could handle kick pickleball.
Oh, kick pickleball. Oh, I think we just saying that.
Just offering that as a tidbit, I guess.
Pickleball picked up, became popular really fast. I like that one. Kick pickleball. We need to work on it. There's a picture on the screen here of the winning team of Team Indonesia from one of the tournaments. So this is big time. They've got gold medals and everything. So
sure.
Yeah, again, John, great sport. I am really surprised that we've never heard of this.
And obviously look how much it's in the Western Hemisphere, right? It's in Canada, in the US, it's in Mexico, right? Those are large land masses. I mean,
I know. Well, so as I always say, while we may not remember it, John and I believe, played something like this when we were in college. I don't know if you remember that, John. There may have been one of those days when
Could have been one of those fog days, one of those days where you're kind of in a fog.
And there may have been a keg involved with it, but I believe that John and I participated in a sport while we were in college. It had to do with kicking, had to do with a net, like a volleyball net. It had to do with ball. And I found a picture of what I think was us attempting to kick balls over a net. And let's see if you can pick out here which one of these is me and John. But that's basically how we played.
That's at our athletic best.
There you go. We spent the entire match either on our backs or on our stomachs, illegally throwing the ball with our hands.
I think they have a vague recollection of that, Paul.
I think so. That's right. And then we just went back to the keg. So, all right, John. So CPAC CPAC Takraw there. I'll pronounce it once. What a great sport.
Oh, that's it. I think that's how you pronounce it correctly. Yeah.
I think so. That's one of the stranger ones you've uncovered for us, John. So thanks again.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. So it's the end of What in Will of Sports with John Donallo. So that means that it's time for his other favorite segment of the show, plus the co-host, everybody's favorite weird news game. We play it every week at the end of the show. It's real easy to play. Just like kick volleyball, there's that simple rules. I have 3 stories similar to the ones we've been talking about all afternoon. One big difference, those were true. These may or may not be. They may be real, they may be a bluff. It's up to John, Karen, and those of you playing at home to decide which is which. Betting is allowed. Place your wagers. John and buzzer, and let's get number 1. There may be stories as well. So a man in Devon, England, may think he's qualified to join what's left of the Who, but Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey may not give a hoot about him after hearing what he did. It seems he likes to listen to owls and was thrilled when one night he heard one hooting very close to his garden. He got even more excited when he made a hooting sound himself and the owl hooted back. When it happened again the following night, he got out a notebook and began a diary, noting the date, the time, and the type of owl he thought was hooting back to him. This went on for an entire year. So he brought his diary to a local bird club meeting to brag. It was there he met his neighbor, who had also been hooting to an owl he heard in the backyard. Everyone thought it was a hoot, and the men are still good friends. All right, so John and Karen, the guy in England who thought he was hooting to an owl, it turns out he was hooting to his neighbor who thought he was hooting to an owl, but it turns out he was hooting to his neighbor. What do you think, Karen? Real or bluff?
Who's on first?
Good one. Good one, Karen.
Oh my God, is this
Hootie and the Blowfish? Yeah.
But you know what? I know you're a good writer, but this is so involved. I have to say it's true.
Oh, okay. So involved, I have to say it's true. That's a new twist on it. Okay. So Karen says that's a true story. John, how about you?
It doesn't take much of an imagination to think about this, but I think it's true also because, I could just see that occurring. How do you know what an owl exactly sounds like? And how would you know how your neighbor replies? So I'm going to say it's real. I'm going to say it's a true story.
Wow. Okay. So John and Karen both agree that that's a real story. Let's check with the judges. And the judges say my good friend Gail, who donated this story, will be happy that both of you got that right. That is a true story.
Yay!
All right. We're off and running, Karen. We're off and
Gail.
running. Can't do it better.
I'll
Can't
be
do it
honest
better
with you.
right now.
I'll be honest with you. When Gail sent me the story, I thought it couldn't be true. And then I looked it up, and sure enough, it really did happen. So how about that?
Hey,
So scores.
Thank her for that. Yeah, good.
I certainly will. We can all thank her. Thank you, Gail. So scores 1-1. Let's get right to story number 2. Hands on the buzzers. Many people in the U.S. are afraid of Canadian geese, but what American bird are Canadians afraid of? If you said pigeons, you're right. And a man in British Columbia has the medical bills to prove it. He used to like pigeons and fed them popcorn in his backyard. But after he came home from a weekend vacation, he couldn't find any. That is, until he opened the door. The vengeful pigeons had broken a window and eaten all of the food on his counters. Even worse, they then attacked him, breaking both of his hips and a finger before he was able to crawl out and call for help. He's now recovering and has given up feeding the pigeons in favor of a new hobby, feeding the pigeons to his neighbor's pet alligator. All right, so a man who was attacked and got two broken hips, attacked by pigeons in Canada. What do you say, let's see, that's John. We'll go to John first. Real or bluff?
Boy, I think that's gonna be, I'm hoping for this, in this guy's sake, it's a bluff. I mean, how powerful are these pigeons, or how, for lack of a better phrase, clumsy is this person that breaks both of his hips when he's trying to contend with pigeons? I mean, I don't know. I think it's, I think it's
American pigeons, John. We have big pigeons.
No, there are big pigeons, and I'm sure that they have a certain amount of strength, but I just don't think this is real. I think it's false.
Yeah, okay, John says it's a bluff. Karen, how about you? What do you say? Real or bluff? Karen's still thinking about it.
For some reason, I think it's real because pigeons can be violent.
Oh, pigeons can be violent. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I've been, down in Cincinnati, there's a place called Fountain Square. And I remember sitting out on Fountain Square and the pigeons like dive bombing at us.
Oh
my gosh.
Yeah.
So there you go. In a little kitchen, maybe, and a lot of pigeons and American pigeons at that, big evil American pigeon. So Karen says it's a real story. John says it's a bluff. The attack pigeon. Let's check with the judges, and the judges say, congratulations, John. That is a bluff.
Oh,
it's ahead 2-1. How about that, Karen?
Hey.
Right. Pigeons are violent, so
I'm just getting a 2 right out of 3. I'm not doing too bad.
But yeah, don't count your pigeons before.
Maybe I'll get 3 out of 3. Who knows? I'm living right. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
All right, and everybody knows if you played before, points are double in round number 3. So Karen could come right back and win. Well, let's get right to story number 3. A fisherman who was tired of people not believing the size of the fish he catches created a TikTok video of his solution to the problem. He had an accurate ruler tattooed on his leg so he can hold the fish next to it and take a cell phone photo before releasing it back to the water. Many people with their minds in the gutter think he did this tattoo just to use it as a pickup line in bars. But the man swears the leg ruler tattoo is strictly for measuring his fish. However, on cold days, the tattoo ruler does suffer from shrinkage, and he's forced to wear long pants and pull them down for the measurement, something that doesn't impress his female fishing buddies either. All right, so the man who measures fish by tattooing a ruler on his leg. What do you say, Karen? Real or bluff?
Oh my God. Can I quit? Wow. I'm gonna say this is real too.
Oh wow, okay. No reason. You're just saying that's a real.
No, I'm just going along for the fun of it.
Would you let your husband tattoo a ruler on his leg?
No.
No. Okay. That's it. No. All right.
Just
John, how about you? The guy with the tattoo of a ruler on his leg for measuring fish.
I tell you what, I see people everywhere with tattoos in various locations or various spots on their body. So I'm going to say using that as a guide or as a something to go by. I'm going to say it's true. I'm going to say somebody was bold enough to do this.
Wow. Well, considering we do have a lot of tattoo stories on the show, including
yes, we do.
Today. So John says it's real. Karen, you also say that's a real story?
Yep.
Okay, let's check with the judges, and the judges say, congratulations, John, that's a real story. Sorry, Karen, even though you got 2 out of 3, John is the winner this week.
Wow. Thank you. So it could be the blind squirrel theory, right? That eventually the blind squirrel gets the nut every once in a while, right? I feel great though. You know what? This kind of get actually for me on a Tuesday kind of carries me to the weekend actually. Knowing
There
that
you go. You're going into hump day on a high.
That's right. I got 3
Yeah.
correct. Let's go this way. Like they tell you when you're growing up, you can't do any better than that. So
There you
And you know what? It's all because of your beautiful wife, Annette.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
there you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think if we didn't go through those exercises or whatever, or those challenges back and forth, questions, I would not be prepared. So I will definitely thank Annette as soon as we wrap up the show here.
Yeah. I
They
think you
use flash
should.
cards there. We're of the age we remember flash cards. John and Annette still use those flash cards. So
Hey, whatever works. Hey,
whatever works. That's right.
whatever works, right? Whatever enables you to learn something, right?
There you go. Well,
Absolutely.
congratulations again.
Never too old to learn.
We hope that what in the world works for you. We hope that you tuned in to get some laughs, and you got some laughs today with our strange news stories and our sports and our fun game. At the end, I want to thank Karen Hale, our media mogul and producer and owner of nuclearradio.net. Please go there, check us out. Check out all of the podcasts that she has there. They're just great. There's something for everybody. So please take a look at them. Watch us on YouTube. Follow us on any other platforms. Like us, do whatever they ask you to do. But please do that so we get a feel for how many listeners we have. And as always, I thank my old friend John Dinalo. Thanks for another great sport, for being a good sport and putting up with our nonsense. Always good to see you on Tuesday. So thank you and your lovely and talented trainer wife.
Yes, I have to give credit where credit's due. So thanks, Paul. Thanks, Karen. It's a good way to get the week started here. So have a good week, everybody. Have a good week.
Okay, thanks. See you next week.
And have a good holiday.
Oh, have a good holiday.
We have Labor Day coming up.
Yeah, right. Happy Labor Day.
On Tuesday. Yep. Okay.